Hi, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon to our third Stifel NextGen Voices episode. My name is Nick Eftimov. I'm part of Stifel's Chief Investment Office. And as always, I'm joined here today with my colleague and co-host, Sophia DiMartini.
Hi, everybody. As Nick said, my name is Sophia DiMartini, and I'm really excited to be here today. Tom, thanks for joining us.
So good to be with you both. Thank you for having me.
We're broadcasting live from our New York City office today, as today's episode is a special one. We're very fortunate today to have one of our own, a part of the Stifel family. So Tom Michaud is with us today. He is the president and CEO of KBW and the co-head of investment banking at Stifel. This year in August marks Tom's 40th year in the industry. And what's truly remarkable is that he has spent all 40 years at KBW. Tom started out as an analyst and went on to help build and lead what is today one of the premier investment banks focused on financial services. So today we're excited to talk with Tom about his career, the lessons that he's learned, and the perspective that he's built over that time. So Tom, thank you so much for being here today.
So great to be with you both. And by the way, 40 years is much longer than 39. That's what I'm learning.
Well, that's actually what I wanted to start with, because as we were getting to know each other and prepping for this podcast, immediately the thing that jumped out is 40 years. I think that is something that's incredible. It's extremely rare in today's industry, in any career, let alone finance. I just passed my 12th year at Stifel, and when I think about 40 years, that's an amazing achievement. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And for today, we have a lot of interns and early career folks watching. So I figured maybe we can start with the beginning. In 1986, when you joined KBW and you reflect back on that time, what was that like? And in the first few years, when is it that you sort of started to realize that KBW is perhaps a firm that you want to stay and build a career?
Well, thank you. So I was very attracted to the firm when I graduated out of college. I met KBW during the career counseling period at a Middlebury College up in Vermont. And at the time, I was really attracted to the fact that the firm had 75 employees and it was a very focused firm. And I said, what a great opportunity to learn. I was interviewing with a lot of bigger firms at the time. And once KBW offered me a job, I stopped interviewing with the other firms because I said, to me, it was all about what was I going to learn, the people I was going to be working with. What did I think about those potential relationships? And the position sounded like it would be just a great launching point for a career. And also the firm's focus was very much aligned with my economics major in college. So I went to a smaller college. It was a smaller firm. All seemed to be something that could work for me.
That's great. And I think that what I want to say is that you bring a lot of excitement to the conversation today. And what I know about you is you are constantly enthusiastic about work. So how, through these 40 years, have you stayed so driven and challenged and enthusiastic about showing up?
So first of all, I consider myself so fortunate. And when, after 40 years, so when you get out of bed in the morning, like what gets you fired up or what gets you going? And I think about maybe a couple of real drivers and principles for me, and I'll just share it because maybe for those who are watching, maybe it'd be something they would think about. First of all, what I love is the passion of the firm. And when I talk about KBW now, it's also Stifel, because like you mentioned, I've been here for 13 years. I'm a senior officer at Stifel as well. So really what I say hopefully certainly applies to everything. But number one is a passion for being best in class. I was an athlete. I still like to play sports. While I'm a gentleman, if I don't win, I prefer to win more than I lose. So it's nice to be competitive and to really strive to be best in class. And I love that aspect of the firm. The second is the people I work with. If you're going to have a successful career, or especially on Wall Street, you'll probably spend more time in the office than you will at home. And that's important. So when you think about what that balance is, and do you like working with the people you work with? I've been blessed. I greatly enjoy and admire and respect the people I work with, the men and women. So that makes it easy because, again, I spend more time in the office than I even do at home. And then the third is I chose a career that is very entrepreneurial. It's always changing. It's a meritocracy. I like a meritocracy. And if that's something that you're built for, then this is a great industry. And I think our firm's a great firm. It was a great fit for me for those three reasons. We were aligned around being best in class in the mission, the people, and the fact that it was a meritocracy and entrepreneurial.
So I want to talk a little bit about the industry. And you mentioned entrepreneurship, right? And in your 4-decade career, I'm sure you've seen the industry change a lot. Financial services today, as an example, means a lot more than it did back then. And if you think about the regulation, technology that's come our way, the entrance of new competition, right? The banks and the non-banks. So sometimes I think in the moment, it may be hard to figure out what is it like changing and everlasting, something to adapt to. Sometimes it may be a fad. So when you think back some of the changes we've had, how would you say the industry has changed? And what are some things that essentially are timeless core principles to the financial services
Yeah,
industry?
so our firm, Stifel Financial and KBW, we're a financial services firm. What's nice is it also aligns with the expertise of my historic career, which is KBW is a financial services focused investment banking effort, right? So it all matches up. So KBW every year produces a report that talks about the outlook for financial services and for banks. And there's a part of the introduction that I love reading every year, because in that part, the analysts write about that historians found in some ancient Egyptian tablets references to bank branches. Okay. So my view is that banking's been around a long time if the Egyptians were talking about it and writing about it in their tablets. So for financial services, it's been around a long time. That's number one. So length. Number two is it's big. So if you look at the United States and the indices for the stock market, financial services is the second largest sector at 14% of the market. Now, the giant of the moment is tech, which is 36. But when you look at financial services, it's one of the top two in most important sectors. It's also the second largest sector in the world. So it's big. So it's been around a long time and it's really big. And then when you look at the complexion of it, which is something that we've studied, it's really changed over time. So when I started my career, and we'll use the S&P 500 weighting as just sort of a general composite of what it is, a description. So typically about 50 to 60% of the index when I started were banks. Today, banks are a quarter of financial services. So financial services has changed a lot and non-banks have gained a lot of share. So let's talk about what the non-banks are. Non-banks are insurance companies. And they're also fintech, specialty finance, digital assets, payment companies. So these are some of the rising challengers. So Coinbase, Robinhood didn't exist 10, 15 years ago like they do today. So you can see how the change is happening. The other thing is they all want to get into each other's businesses. And I view it as like one big Venn diagram of these bubbles that are bouncing around and they keep smashing together. It's a giant collision and they each trying to get into each other's business. So one of my favorite press releases of the past month is a press release that Morgan Stanley put out where they announced that they were going to undercut Robinhood in crypto trading. And so, that's kind of like the original sheriff telling the new sheriff, hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
So what's enabling all this is that we have a policy out of Washington right now that is very much focused on growth, on allowing for innovation in a regulated manner to keep it safe and to level the playing field. That was not the policy response after the global financial crisis. After the global financial crisis, it was generally, we're going to put a perimeter around the banks. The banks caused a problem. Well, that was the view, but even though I think there were many, many factors that were contributing to the problem, but the policy response was, we're going to rein in the banks because we have to do that. Well, while that happened, you had an enormous private credit world stand up and you had a lot of non-bank challengers. And I'll just speak a little bit about crypto. Previous to this administration, if you owned crypto, you couldn't keep it at a bank because it was not allowed, but you could keep it at Robinhood, Coinbase, or you could keep it at Fidelity. Now the rules have been changed and the banks are allowed to compete. So I think it's going to be good for the economy. It's going to be good for young people entering the industry because there's going to be more growth. So I think it's exciting and ever changing, and it's global.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, as part of our work that we do in the CIO office, we have this long-term theme where we say productive competition. Competition is good. And your point about regulation, it's almost like a pendulum, right? It gets too tight, and then over time it swings the other way. You also talked about technology. So I think we can't not have this meeting and not talk about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
So, and I think through time, there's always disruption. There's always technology, even when you consider the financial services industry. I was thinking, for example, back in the day, there was no internet, there was no electronic trading. And that was, at that point in time, perhaps a game changer. So far this year, we've had what has been dubbed the SaaS apocalypse, right? And earlier this year, all these tools like Claude released, and financial services even saw an impact in terms of shares. So when you think about artificial intelligence and its potential to be a disruptor, and let's say we can talk about more broadly, but focus in more on the financial services industry, what do you think that potential is, and how does that further change the competition going forward?
Yeah. So I mean, artificial is incredible. I had a chance to join the dinner last night with Secretary Bessent, who came to New York. And I have to tell you, I would encourage everybody who might really care about these things to go read the transcript of his speech. And really what he said is, from a policy perspective, the United States leads the world in innovation, should continue to lead the world in innovation, and should write the rules around how innovation should be regulated by governments. And that's what he was working to do. It is here. I think it's here to stay. And I think it's important to know and to learn, like, for example, about AI. Mm-hmm. So AI is going to change the way I think men and women work, and they work together. However, I get lots of questions from our younger colleagues, like, are we going to be out of a job? Or friends who have kids in college, will I be able to get a job? I think that's too alarmist. I think that you need to know how to use AI. If you can become AI native, that's great. But I also think there's another gear. I'm going to bring this up because you mentioned it's 40 years. So I'm going to go old school for a moment. So Harry Keefe was the founder of our firm, my original firm, before I got to Stifel. Harry's a real American hero. He drove an ammunition boat onto Normandy Beach. Okay. So I'm able to bridge some generations. He walked around with a slide rule in his pocket. And he used to challenge whippersnappers like me on my calculator to see who could get the numbers done first. And he was, I can beat you, Michaud, is what he would say. And he'd get going. Okay. But the point I'm saying is, what will never go out of style is a human being who understands the analysis, can interpret the results in the math, and give good advice. I don't care how much AI there is. It's not going to replace that. No one's going to say, I'm going to type into a computer for my investment portfolio and let them give me all the answers. You may want to look at what the computer tells you, but you're going to want to have a trusted advisor. Mm-hmm. And what I'm intending to use AI for is to make me smarter so I can still be that trusted advisor. And I'll also, I know we're going to talk later about just advice to new entrants into the workforce, but I think understanding the substance of the content of whatever your job is really important. And there is a dividing line between those who do it well and those who don't. Mm-hmm. And it's incumbent upon you knowing what's happening. You can't rely solely on something else. So you have to understand the analysis, and that way you can talk about it better and make better decisions. So I think it's going to alter the workforce. I don't think it's necessarily going to disrupt it as much as everyone else thinks. And there might be some job categories that can really get disrupted, but it will also create an opportunity somewhere else. There will be loads of jobs for those who are qualified and good at their jobs.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think it aligns a lot with how we're thinking, right? You talked about basically it's human judgment and the trust that you place in the relationships that you build. And even, I remember robo-advisors, you still want to be able to speak to someone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, at the most important decisions you're going to make in your life and your career, you're not going to type it into a computer and see what you get. Yeah. No, you're going to find a person who they know what they're talking about, and you're going to want to know what they have to say. And that's not going away. Now, that person may be better qualified because they use AI, but you're not going to outsource good advice, I think, like that.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have touched on it a little bit, but if we're looking at the people who are on watching today, would there be one piece of advice that would help them build their reputation? If you wanted to create a good, long-standing reputation with somebody, what would you advise someone to do, I guess?
So I keep going, what this 40-year stuff. I mean, old school. I'd like to think I'm new school. Like, I'm moving forward on, but I quality matters. And it's, I think, so especially someone who's younger and entering the workforce, which is, you want to invest in yourself. You want to feel as if, like, I actually I am mentoring a couple people in the firm. I sat with someone recently and I said, almost like, because this person knows stocks. I said, think of yourself as a stock. You want to appreciate every year. You want your career to appreciate and grow every year. You want to give yourself options, which means you need a foundation.
Mhm.
And so you need a skill set. And then what happens is you'll understand what thrills you or interests you, and then follow that path. So you want to invest in yourself. It might be if you want to be a research analyst, you got to understand the modeling. Doesn't mean you'll build the models forever, but you want to understand the modeling.
Absolutely.
If you want to be a trader, you got to understand markets. If you want to be a financial advisor, you got to understand all the scope of tools that you have that you can offer your client. And you just always want to learn more every year. Early in my career, I had a senior person sit and tell me, Tom, your job is to read everything. And really, you have to know a lot. And you can't fake it. You can't wing it. You actually have to know it. And if you really want to be exceptional at your job, you got to be prepared. And so, like, all the learning and developing doesn't really stop in college.
Mhm.
I'm learning every day. It makes me excited to go forward. And I hope I'm getting better every day. That's my goal. And so that is what you have to do. And you start from a fresh point out of college, but you want to think, I want to have forward momentum. And then the other thing I would say about mentoring is, what I say to folks is, you're never going to know. I mean, so I'm 40 years into one firm, but I've done a lot of different jobs in 40 years, and I've been able to evolve. But you're never, not everybody's going to go do that, but be careful, you might. I mean, tell everybody, when I was 23, I didn't think I was going to be sitting there necessarily 39 years later. But what you want to do is you want to observe, you want to watch, and it's a rainbow. There's no one personality, person, style that works everywhere. Everybody's got sort of their own approach. So what you want to do is you just want to observe. Say, I really respect that person. I respect why they're effective. I respect how they treat other people. I want to do that. And it's a great way. And then you watch what people do every day. And then when you're young, the nice thing is you have a chance to pivot. I know in our firm at Stifel and KBW, if there's somebody we really like and respect, and we think they're the future of the firm, and they say, I really want to try this in this department, we're going to try to make it happen for them, because we want that person to be here for a long time. So those are ways, I think, to develop your career and as you come out of college.
Great, thank you.
So coming back to that, I think what you touched on was the judgment matters. Like what we've said, like we do a lot of stock work on our team, right? And yes, going back to artificial intelligence can make you more productive. And if I get all this research summarized for me in 40 pages, well, what do I do with it? I need to understand, going back to your comments, the business, build the skills, and then being able to form the conclusion is essentially what you're saying.
I think AI is a tool. Yeah. And I think, I am not a financial advisor, but I'm very familiar with our financial advisors. I would think you would use AI to make yourself more efficient. You would want to know what conclusions maybe AI put forward, but you wouldn't use it as a crutch and make it your final answer.
Yeah.
It's just all part of the puzzle to give great advice. And also, a lot of good advice is bespoke, meaning it's very specific. What might be right for you might not be right for me, or vice versa. So that I mean, that's how I think about it.
So thank you, Tom, for that. I want to move a little bit and talk about leadership, right? You've been at the firm for 40 years. You didn't start as a leader or a manager. Over time, you've progressed on that. And I know you've talked about and you've gone to
It was my
business
job
school.
to carry the bags to meetings, if you really want to know where I started.
Yeah, I remember starting out. I started out at Morgan Stanley. I remember joining. I said, I will do whatever you need me to do. If you want me to go get you a coffee, I will. Because if you're hungry for it, right? So,
That's it.
Yeah.
And by the way, everybody loves folks who volunteer like that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So on leadership, I know you've talked before about night school. You've gone to night school and it'll teach you the theory behind it. But I think you faced the hardest form of leadership and you were tested with it, right? And I think perhaps even more important in terms of anniversary, this September coming up is the anniversary, the 25th of 9/11, the terrorist attacks. And I don't know how many of our audience may know, but KBW had offices in the World Trade Center. And that day, tragically, 67 people died from KBW.
Correct.
So I can't even imagine, but I wanted to ask you, when you've had some time even to reflect on that, and if you go back to the first days, right? It's day by day, I assume at that point. What is it that carried the firm? And then when you reflect back on that now here at the 25th anniversary, how would you say it's changed you in terms of who you are as a person, but also how you lead?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, so I was standing on the sidewalk in the morning of 9/11 when it all happened right in front of me. You're right. We lost 67 of our colleagues, people I had worked together for decades. It was the unimaginable that happened. And by the way, this story is not finished being written. I mean, we just happen to be in a new chapter now here at the 25th year, but this story is still unfolding, I believe. As far as how do you lead and how do you move forward at that point? You mentioned business school. There's no chapter in a business school book that tells you what to do when terrorists fly 2 planes into buildings and kill 2,000 people, including 35% of your colleagues. Okay, that doesn't happen. What really, I think, helped us to move forward is we relied on our values and we relied on each other. And it really came down to your values, which is what was important to us. And we got together. I remember my first day I could get back to the office. There were only 7 people who could get to work at the firm that day. And when we finally got ourselves together, we said, okay, we're going to have a mission and we're going to identify it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do everything we can to help the families of our colleagues who were killed that day. That's a primary mission. We said, terrorists flying planes into buildings is not going to be the last chapter of our firm's history. We're going to rebuild. And what we didn't realize is when we made that decision, it was almost therapeutic for ourselves to go do that. And we're going to do it together. Those first 2 years was 24/7 of work, frankly, trying to go do that. And those were really the principles of trying to do it to help take care of to help the families, which we've done a variety of things. And then it evolved for us. But I'll make another couple of comments about that period. It wasn't just us two. I think we had a lot of resilience. New York City had a lot of resilience. The country had a lot of resilience. So we did. The second thing is I want to talk a little bit about goodwill, because what I learned is that there's a reservoir of goodwill. You hope you never have to go to it, but if you go to it, you hope it's full. Our reservoir was full, and it was full because of the leaders of my company who had treated people right, ethically, worked hard, had a good reputation, and folks wanted to help us. And you know what that says is you pay it forward, and what goes around comes around. And I've never forgotten that for a minute. And so I'm grateful for that goodwill. And also there's another way that we've released our energy. So KBW helped found an organization called 9/11 Day. We convinced Congress to make 9/11 a national day of service. And 9/11 at times can be odd because people don't know what to do. Do I go to a church? What do I go do to recognize it? And our view is the best way to recognize the victims of 9/11 and then what the nation did in rebuilding is come up with an act of service, do something for somebody else. It could be visiting an elderly person next door and saying hello. It doesn't, and we believe that 9/11 now is the biggest day of service in the country. And so we do it to recognize the goodwill and the resilience. Our organization, which by the way, I will tell you, Stifel is a national sponsor of. So 9/11 Day, our favorite event is we do meal packs in every state in the country this year. We're going to pack 20 million meals on 9/11 or around 9/11. You can't do it all in one day. We'll do it over 3 days here in New York at the Intrepid. For those who are food insecure, we've got corporations activating volunteers across the country, pack these meals, donate them to local food banks as a way of recognizing the victims of 9/11 and the resilience and the goodwill that was in America following 9/11. So those were some of the things around leadership around that point. But I have to tell you that, like I said, there's no textbook on what to do when that happens. It's all values. It's the culture of the people around you. And you just go do it. And as far as work ethic, we felt like we had a giant rock that we pushed up the hill a little bit more every day. And that was our strategy.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for being candid and sharing that and your leadership. And like you said, the story's still being written. So thank you so much for that.
Yes. Yeah.
I know we're coming up to a close and we have a couple more questions. And I want to turn it back again to the audience, right? For everyone watching, we have all wide range of audience, some interns, early career folks. So hoping they can take some of this away to their own journey, wherever they may be.
Yes.
So I want to ask a little bit more of a hypothetical question, right? And I always think about this too, as you mentor others, right? I'm sure you're giving this advice. If you put yourself back in the shoes, right? At 22 years old, you're still a kid, right? You're an adult, you're entering the real world, but you now have all of that wisdom of these 40 years now in the career through life. What would be some advice that you would give yourself or to anyone sort of now when you're reflecting back on that?
Yeah, it's funny. While you were talking, I think I would have bought Apple and never sold it. A couple of good stocks I could have bought, never sold, and would have done just fine. Be a long-term investor. The advice is really, like I said, invest in yourself, saying, how am I making myself a better professional for the career that I want to do? And don't just go through the motion and check the box, because it's a really exciting time in your career. Because and learn and I encourage our new colleagues to ask a lot of questions. And so if I were to give advice to those who are interns right now, I know a lot of interns are watching, ask questions, understand what you're doing, what is it that you're doing, and how does it fit into the overall value proposition that the firm has. And those who grasp what's actually happening around them, rather than just doing a specific task, I think have a head start. So my advice would be invest in yourself, build your job skill set, watch for different styles of mentors. There's no one right answer. And then experience and decide what it is that motivates you, because that's probably where you ought to go directionally. And that would be the advice. Another thing I could do is you can give yourself some self-tests too, by the way. I've got one called the brushing your teeth test in the morning. By the way, it's a good idea to do that every day. I don't think that was the question you asked. Yeah, why not do it every day? But while you're doing it and you're looking in the mirror, are you excited to go to work that day? I still pass that test every morning. I am. I look forward to it. So because I think it's something exciting is going to happen. We're working on some great stuff. You want to put yourself in a position that while you're brushing your teeth in the morning, you're excited to go to work. The other thing is, are people finding you to stay busy? And there's an old adage that if you need something to get done fast, you give it to a busy person. Okay. If you're sitting at your desk and nobody's giving you anything to do, that's a bad sign. You could self-analyze that. Why is that happening? I'm going to go find something to do. I'm going to go up to somebody and say, can I help you with something? How can I be helpful? By the way, how can I be helpful is powerful. People love to be asked, how can I be helpful? Those are the people we want to be around as younger colleagues. And make yourself helpful. Make yourself part of the value chain. Ask a lot of questions early, because if you work for a firm and you're in year 3 and start asking questions, we're going to wonder why you didn't ask them in year 1 and 2. So ask questions, and what you'll find is it'll make you more interested, and then you'll be able to understand more of what's happening, and you'll be more valuable. What I generally find is in the first couple of years of employment, the firm's investing a lot in you, the new employee. And then we start to get it back after a couple of years. But like, that new employee should just soak it up and run with it. In some ways, it's a blessing and it's good fortune. And then another point I will say is, I think being around a good firm is important. You know, our firm's been around since 1890. KBW's in year 63 and our market share's never been higher. We're a good firm, okay? Pay attention what's happening at a good firm. And frankly, that quality of the franchise and the brand will reflect on you. I mean, I hate it when I think that if anybody who's a strong professional goes and works for someone else, but I'm also not surprised, because if they have Stifel or KBW's name in their resume, they're more likely to have competitors want to hire them because they know they work at a good firm. Yeah. So put yourself in a position to learn from people who are really good at their job, which I think says a lot about Stifel and KBW.
Lots of good advice. I mean, the 2 things you said that quickly resonated with me is brushing your teeth. I think about work all the time.
You might even think about doing it twice a day, but I'll let everybody. I'm a twice a dayer at least, but I'll let people judge that. See, we got some real good information across.
Yeah. And even investing in yourself makes me think it's like at some point you got to balance work and life, and sometimes you have to make sacrifices, right? It can't all be fun.
Well, balancing work and life, by the way, let's go back to that, because I will take that from another lesson of 9/11, which is you have to balance work and life. And that's another thing about our firm, is that we want you to have that balance. I mean, we want you, and we kind of need you to work hard. We need you to do your job. But if there's a life event or something and you need balance in your life, we get it. We understand. While we like to win individual competitions, we really want to win the marathon. Okay. And we love it when people stay here a long time and they feel like they have that life balance. And even though I think, you know, I still punch the clock a pretty long day every day, I've had life balance because of the values of the place that I work at.
That's a beautiful thing. And I just got off a trip in Portugal, so I am doing a life balance as well. I think earning your vacations is a really good thing.
Yes. And you know, you hear these stories on Wall Street of like people literally working themselves, you know, into exhaustion.
Yes.
Unacceptable. No. Unacceptable. I've told people, if that's the case, you got to raise your hand, go to your supervisor. We don't want that to happen. Yeah. We want you to work hard. We want to serve our clients, but that's what a teammate is here for, is to pick up the slack. And I would expect somebody to volunteer to do that. I know I would.
Yes. And if we turn this piece of advice to investing, what would the one piece for long-term investing to the people in the audience would be?
So I think, as we chatted about, Wilford Frost was kind enough to have me on his Money Masters podcast a couple of weeks ago. And so I put a lot of thought in that. He wanted me to very quickly talk about what I learned over 40 years. I'll tell you, I'm a big believer in buying the trophies when they're on sale in the stock market. I love betting on the best companies in a vertical and betting on the best management teams. If you buy stock in a good company with a good team, you've hired them to run your investment for you. And just make sure you're aligned. So I'm not a big home run and stock investor. I think entry price means everything. And I also think long-term investing is everything, especially given how high tax rates are. Yeah. You know, I know, especially when you're starting out, W-2 matters a lot. Your current income, you know, a lot of expenses. I get it. But over time, net worth building is really the business you ought to be in. You'll be happiest at the end of your career if you've built a lot of net worth. And so you got to think about it after tax and you got to think about it long term. But my number one favorite strategy is buy the trophies when they're on sale and own them for a long time.
And I love what you said about management teams. We do a lot of work when we're researching stocks here. And a big thing we focus on is we're buying the management team. It's a huge thing.
That's it. That's it. And, you know, having been in a C-suite, having been CEO of a public company, I know that I work for the shareholders and I work for someone who owns one share and someone who owns a lot of shares. And so my job is to deliver for them. I know that. And I know our current management team knows that.
Absolutely. And I think to close it out today, we do have a tradition of ours on these webinars, and we call them lightning rounds. So we're going to ask.
By the way, undisclosed lightning round. I have no idea what's coming.
Yes, sorry about that.
No, this is good. This is real time. This is
questions.
News breaking.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is the most used app on your phone?
Oh my gosh, most used app on my phone.
Don't say TikTok.
No. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm going to go in the boring category. I mean, I look at stock prices a lot. You know, Bloomberg. You know, I follow the news on Bloomberg and that. But for fun, I will tell you more lately, ESPN to follow the World Cup. Got to follow the World Cup. And so I love tracking sports. So I would say ESPN is I'm on. And then, well, there's more. I am a Wordle fan.
Love the Wordle. Yes. I still do it daily.
A lot of competition in my family. You know, I mean, if someone gets it in 4 tries instead of 5, they claim they're smarter. I've been down that argument before. So, but I am a Wordle fan as well.
Okay. The next one would be, what would you be doing if you were not in finance?
Ooh, I would definitely be in a people business.
Okay.
Being on podcasts with people. Well, thank you. I would be in a people business, I think, which is I like being around people and I like being in an advisory role and helping folks. So I would be in some type of people business.
Great answer. And then the last one for me is favorite New York City sports team.
So I'm gonna tell you right now, I've got 2, if that's okay. One in football, one in baseball. You're going to accuse me of being very loyal and not very bright, but I'm a New York Jets season ticket holder, which means now that the Knicks have a championship, I know which team is next. It's got to be the Jets. This is our year. So I'm a Jets fan and I'm a Yankee fan, which is odd because the Giants used to play in Yankee Stadium. And so usually it comes as a package. You're a Yankees and a Giants fan, but I'm a crossover. I'm a Yankee because the Jets used to play in Shea Stadium, which was where the Mets played. So they used to come. So the fan base used to be similar, but I'm a Jets fan and a Yankee fan.
Got it. And let's go Knicks.
And oh my gosh. And a New York Knicks fan. I did get to some games this year and in the playoffs. But by the way, I thought a lot about it and the resilience of the Knicks, especially for me in the 25th year anniversary since 9/11, that is all New York. To be that far behind and never give up. It's beautiful. And it is what this city is, New York City. That's the grittiness of this town.
Yeah. All right. So I've got 3 and you kind of touched on this, but I'm curious, the first thing you check in the morning when you wake up each day.
Ooh, the first thing I check in the morning. Usually I if I'm commuting, I got a train to catch. How fast I need to get moving in the morning to get my train. But and then I get on my phone and I usually check the news wires to see if there's any news out overnight. That might affect the markets.
I've been thinking of building myself an agent that checks for me the bus schedules coming in and can tell me if there's traffic or not, but
yes,
TBD.
Yes.
I know you're super busy. So when you do have some time, what would be the first thing that you want to do with that free time? Let's say it's an hour that you have.
Yeah. Spend it with my family.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And find a way to spend time with them. One of them. So that would be number one. So I'm very grateful for it because they stood by me when I had to dig in after 9/11. And I'm blessed. And so that's where I would go spend time.
So I guess a follow-up to that, your favorite destination with your family, where would you go?
Well, I'll tell you, there are a variety of ways to say it, but what I'll say is my fondest memories generally is our trips to the national parks. I'm a huge national park fan, and my wife and I tried to take our kids to as many of the nation's national parks as possible. So hanging out at Volcano National Park in Hawaii while there was live lava going into the Pacific Ocean.
Amazing.
And you had to wait at night because the steam, you couldn't see it during the day, but at night the lava could be seen through the steam. Of course, then I would get yelled at by my wife. We shouldn't have the kids out that late, but that's a different story. But that was very cool. So whether it's there, the Painted Desert, Yosemite, these are all fantastic memories. Now the kids are all older now, so I think rallying them for one of these trips would be a little harder. But when I would say of the family trips that we've taken, those national park visits, Alaska, oh my gosh, go to Alaska.
Beautiful.
Stagger. It really is the nation's beauty, and our nation's parks are remarkable. And if you get a chance, don't miss it.
Well, that's a great way to close it on family. So Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has.
Yeah.
So to those of you watching, thank you for tuning in for our third episode. As a reminder, we do this series quarterly, so we'll be back again next quarter. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.